be done by Rafaul, who was a student at the School of Computer Science here in Oviedo. He has been working from the European Union a lot of years, and he's going to talk about his project. One project that he was the manager of the project for during 7 years. For me, I have to say that this is a real pleasure to have Rafa here, because I remember him when he was a student, and he was a very nice student who was very active. Also in the Delegación de Alumnos, he was very active, and a lot of things that now work very well in the school probably are because he was very active as a student, and he was, I remember when we were changing the study plan, he was one of the students who was participating in that change of the study plan. As a student, he was really, he was helping a lot the School of Computer Science, and so we deserve him a lot of things, even if you don't think about that. So sometimes the students can have a lot of impact on the schools, and he is one of those students that he had a lot of impact. So without further ado, I just let him to start the talk, and now is your time, Rafa.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, and it's a pleasure to be here also for me. I think it's one of the I haven't been back to the school often, and now I'm actually not present. It's a pity, but I'm currently in Italy, from where I'm speaking. But it's a pleasure to be back and to feel attached again and present again in the school. It's not the same school. When I was going to take the lessons, it was in the science faculty in Yamakike. So you have a much nicer place to hold the lessons these days. I met Labra some months ago, maybe last summer, in Avilés, and we were talking a bit, we were catching up a bit with each other's lives, and I was telling him a bit my experience in the European Commission with the IT projects, and he was telling me a bit how what he was teaching at the moment. So this subject about IT architecture, which I found very interesting, and also he was criticizing the technologies that we were using. No? So when I told him, we have this project and we're running on SOAP web services, and he told me, are you from the past? So this sparked a bit a conversation that led into him having an interest in showing for you what we are doing at the European Commission in this project. And I put a bit of a presentation, which I'm going to give now, that has it does a bit it's part of my story, how I started to work on this project, what I found, how I evolved from being more a technically minded person to more of a person management role. No? So I mean, I started with the idea that the working on IT management was very much focused on the technology, and I end thinking that it's very much focused on the people, on putting systems in place that allow people to really develop themselves, to really contribute. So I have shifted this focus along these years, and there I'm going to add several aspects which are more related to IT architecture. I am not an IT architect, okay? This is not my role. I have been an IT developer. I moved into project management, but I am not an IT architect. We are going to maybe to talk about what is the role of an IT architect later on. But there have been elements of IT architecture that I'm going to put here in the presentation. Thank you everyone for being here also. I hope that everyone is coming here by their own will. No one is forced. And let's see what we have today. The presentation, I'm going to make it available, so it's already available in the Google Drive, and the link can be shared. It's going to be there. So this is a bit who am I. You can find me there in the old faculty when we were fighting for that new study plan, for new resources, we always had, as students, the goal of having better quality in the teaching, and this is something that people like Labra have also supported very well from their side. So there was a nice combination of teachers wanting to improve and students wanting to improve, and we managed to get some wins over the university, and we managed to do that. So I'm 43, I have 2 kids, I'm married, and I have worked as IT operations manager at the European Commission, in particular for the Director General of Fisheries and Maritime Affairs, right? So the European Commission has 25, 27 Director Generals, so it's like the national ministries, and they do different things, and in my particular case, it was Fisheries and Maritime Affairs. The team where I was working, there were 40 people, 20 of which are external contractors. And we will also see a bit later on the difference between working with permanent staff of the institution versus external contractors. At the very end, I will also tell you a bit about, if you want to follow professionally this road, what are your options? Because it includes both. No? You might want to become an external contractor working for a company and provide services to the institutions, or you might want to explore to work for the institution per se as permanent staff, which is my case. So there will be a slide also at the end with some suggestions about this. This is the project that I have been working on. It's called the transport layer, the Flux transport layer, and this is a system that is in charge of exchanging fisheries data. So you are in a vessel, you are fishing, and the vessel is transmitting via satellite the position where the vessel is. This position goes to the member states, to the countries, and the countries send it to the European Commission. And this is where we enter. We have software that is running at the member states and is running at the Commission, and it does a secure exchange of this data. Positions of vessels is the most simple thing that we transmit. It basically coordinates speed and course, so where is the vessel heading to. This is the most basic thing, but there is also fishing activity. What are you fishing? So there's 3 tons of tuna, for instance. And also there is the licenses. So if European vessels want to fish in Norway, they have to send a request through our systems. Okay, I'm not going to talk more about the system, but at least you have a bit of a broad idea about what it is, the background of what we're talking about, right? So fisheries data. I put here already the tech stack that we are working on. And this SOAP web services is what Labra was, how to say, telling that it was a bit ancient. But this is what the system is working on. And this is a system which is not a legacy. This is not an old system, right? This is the standard that we are working on today. It doesn't mean that the new systems that we develop today are following this stack. No. But the ones that we have that are healthy, that are operational, that are running, are using this. When we build something new, we are building on Amazon Web Services and on cloud services, okay? But in any case, this system is like this. It's running on Java 8, and the application servers that are used are this Wildfly 21 or WebLogic 12.2. The database we're using is Oracle 19, but it also supports Postgres versions 12. And we have a front end which is running on Angular 2. I was checking yesterday how far behind we are in terms of versions for Angular. I think Angular is running on version 14 or 15 these days. It's also true that the versioning of Angular today, they're releasing one new version every 6 months. So it's not really, that we are in version 2 and the real system is the real system is in version 15 doesn't really say a lot about how behind we are. But at least, this is not the latest technology, but still it runs very well, and this is what we have. Anyway, just for your information. I started to work in 2017 in this project, and at the moment, we didn't pay a lot of attention to the governance. And what is the governance? Is that you have the right documents, that you have the right permissions in the commission to run the system, that we're using the right technology, because it was a bit of a mess. The system had just started. There were just a handful of people working, and my role was to put a bit of order into that. Okay, so this onboarding was how I started to work on this. I basically was thrown into a project and trying to make sense of it, right? And I'm saying this because this can happen many times in your professional life. Sometimes you will be able to start a project from scratch. Many other times you're going to get into a mess and you will have to find your whereabouts. These are some systems that we had, some problems that we had during the first year. One developer left, so suddenly there was only one person working on a project. And it was not me, I was the manager, right? So there was only one developer that was able to continue improving the system. It took us a very long time to deliver a new release because we were doing manual testing. There was one person testing the system, every new version for around 2 days. And at some moments, we had 60 failed release candidates. There were 60 versions that were rejected, and we were not able to put them to make an official release. And people were blaming the others. They were saying, no, it was the previous team that delivered this. No one had any ownership or accountability or responsibility. No one wanted to take responsibility for this. It was very easy to find to play the blame game, and it was someone else's fault. So this was something that happened during the first year. Part of what we put in place was to start with hiring a new team. So we had a push from our business counterpart. You will find that in corporate environments, there are usually it's usually a duality of roles. You have the business, who are the owners of the software, and the IT, who are the ones developing it, right? So this is something that for me, I was not aware of this distinction when I was at the university. It was basically everything IT. But then once you get to the corporate level, you see that there is some owner and there is some other team doing implementing the project. No? So business and IT. So then we had some push, and we started to hire people. The people that you see there now in the screen are the team I was working with: Seifula, Oliver, Mark, Prince Will, and Ekehar was the business owner on the left. You don't see his name. Seifula is from Bulgaria, Oliver is from Slovakia, Prince Will is from Cameroon, Mark is from Sweden, Australia. And then we had another person coming, Vincenzo, who is an Italian. So this is the typical team that you will find in an international environment, is made of people that are coming from many places around the world. I remember the job interviews that we had. And when the job interview goes well, it's usually a very nice conversation about technology. No? I don't know if you have already gone to some job interviews to find a job yourselves. It's usually quite tense on the side of the employee or the potential employee, but it's also not easy on the other side. No, you don't really know. Sometimes you try to force the answers out of this person. Sometimes there's not a good match, but sometimes things go very smooth. And I remember with some of them, it was just a nice conversation about technology, and we saw that there was a good match, and we hired these people. I wanted to add here some questions that we gave in the interviews. It could be interesting for you. It's an anecdote, okay? Don't take this as the industry standard, but we were asking things like, can you tell me the difference between a Java queue and a Java topic to assess a bit how fluent they were using Java? Or using Hibernate, the second level cache, what this is for, to assess a bit how they were working with databases. And later on, we introduced things that are the enterprise design, the enterprise integration patterns, which architecturally speaking is something that you will probably find, and it's a good way to build these sort of systems. I would be interested to know afterwards in the questions, what is your knowledge about this? No, have you heard about integration patterns? Have you used them? A bit to know if what I'm saying resonates with you, if I'm saying something that you understand, or it's completely new. So, as we had a lot of lag between the development and the delivery, and we had a lot of failing releases, and it took us too long to test, the first thing we did was to put in place automated testing. We put a set of systems that we call them system tests, system integration tests, and we have reworked them over time, and they are still today our main semaphore if we want to go live or not. If the tests are passing, we know we can do a release. If they are not, then we will stop everything. So they are still one of our key tools today. I want to mention something about unit testing as well. This is a system that had a very low coverage of unit testing. It still has a very low coverage today. We are at 35%, and the ideal would be around 80%, which is a bit the common industry standard for acceptance to have 80% unit testing. We still have this low, and it's always difficult to find time when you are running on a project that has already been created to create those unit tests. Right? So the sooner you do them, the easier it is. If you wait some time, it's going to become difficult to get them in. In any case, with our system integration tests, we were confident enough that we could go live with the next release. There were changes in the team since the moment where we started. So if you remember, we had at some moment only one developer, and the stable team is composed of 3 developers and 1 quality assurance engineer. So 3 developers and 1 tester, plus me as a manager. But then there are problems with the people, right? And the people will have conflicting opinions about how to implement a thing, and having a team that works is a hard work. And I want to put here this slide about the team development to give you an awareness of how much it needs to get a team which is really performant. At the beginning, there will be conflicting ideas. People are going to have issues with each other, not personally. It could also happen, no, but more technically. I prefer that we use this library in order to do this. No, but I have experience in this one. Let's use this other one. So this is a bit the job of a manager to channel this, to have the right conversations, to listen to people more than to impose a way, right? Because in the end, things are going to work well when you let the people decide where they want to go. No? So my job as a manager was to say, okay, this is the framework, these are the guidelines, this is the road, and this is where we want to go. But now, how we are going to get there, what we are going to do, this is your job. This was the job of the team, right? And at some moment, we managed to get people to understand each other, to work well together, and we could become performing, right? So I don't know where in other subjects in your studies you will hear about team management. I only heard that back in my time in a subject that was a bit on the side, so that's why I wanted to mention this. Although this is not purely architecture, but it will affect the deliverables. But now let's talk a bit more about architecture. Why we were in that situation of having a lot of failed release candidates? Because in the unit, we didn't have good architectural skills. There was no lead architect that could help us put the system together. It was, someone else did the project, then it was handed over to us, and then, it was a bit in a wrong situation. So there was a reflection in our unit about, because this was not the only project that had this issue. There were other projects also with similar issues. So they say, okay, let's put in place an architecture office with 4 architects. And whatever you want to change with the project, you will have to consult those architects and they will have to give you the green light. And for me, this was a big conflict. Okay, and this was a bottleneck. I was constrained by this. This took away the team independence, which I wanted. I wanted the team to be accountable and responsible for the changes. And this just slowed things down. And I had issues with this approach of having an architecture office. So here, what I want, I'm telling you this because I want you to think about what is the best structure of the work. Is it better to have a team with a lead architect being independent to work, or is it better to have an architecture office that will serve different teams? You might have your own opinion about what works better. No? So this is a bit the idea here. And an example of my conflicts with the architecture office were when we wanted to increase the speed of the system. As I mentioned in the beginning, we were exchanging fisheries data. There was when a vessel was sending the position, that was one message, and the system could do 3 messages per second, which is absolutely nothing. So we wanted to increase that. And when we asked the architecture office for feedback for this, they said, in the way the system is done, you cannot do that. There is nothing you can do. Forget about it. And what we did was to do changes against their advice, and we managed to increase to 10, to 20, and to 60, which is where we are today. The system, after several refactorings, can do 60 messages per second today. And this is how we managed to get rid of the influence of the architecture office, by proving that in the end, we could do the things without them. Now, things have changed now. We don't have an architecture office anymore. It lasted for 1.5 years and then it was disbanded. And we have a different structure where we have a lead architect who is in contact with the architects of each of the teams. So we have like 3 or 4 teams. Each of them has one person that has a bit more of knowledge about architecture, and they all meet once per week. And this is kind of our architecture guild, so to say. No? So I think this works better. It's more inclusive, allows people to contribute, and it's a better approach. But anyway, just to give you an example of how we dealt with architecture in this particular case. A bit more about the system and about the architecture, just to show you what it is in our main architectural document, where we store the information. This is part of a wiki, which is where we keep it. On the left, you can see the 4 basic modules of the system. I will not enter into what they do. I think it's irrelevant now, but just so that you know that there are 4 modules that communicate with each other. That's for now all we need to know. I think it's more important to see what we have on the other end, which are another aspects that complement a bit this. No? So what about security? What about the certificates? Because in these connections from computer to computer, it has to be secure, so we have to have a certificate authority. We have to have certificates issued not only for us but also for the other nodes. So that was an important thing. We have non-functional requirements, such as, I'm going to mention, for instance, the recovery time objective, which is if the system goes down, how long can it stay down? So how fast we have to bring it up again. This talks about the criticality of the system. What happens if our system, in this case, the flags transport layer, is down for several hours and there is a European vessel fishing in Norway and Norway is not receiving the data from our system? The Norwegian Coast Guards are going to say, there is nothing in our systems. There is a European vessel. We don't see any permission. We're going to take that vessel to port. So they are going to seize that vessel. And this could potentially have diplomatic, this could become a diplomatic incident. No? So that's why for this system that was quite critical, we had to have a short recovery time objective for this case. This never happened. In the end, something that did happen was that there were European vessels waiting to enter into Norwegian waters. because our systems were not working fine. This happened a couple of times, right? So this is a bit the impact that these things could have. So this has to be there in the architecture document. Then there is something about how modules communicate with each other. The next thing is is what do we support in terms of architecture. So what application server we can run with, what database we can run with, and then other things about the database and how we maintain the database. Anyway, just to give you a bit of a glimpse of what goes into an architecture summary of a system like this one. Something that we were paying attention to also was the quality of service. This was our key indicator. In these sort of systems of message exchange, if the node that has to receive the message is down, the system is going to retry several times, but it will retry only until some time. So, for instance, one hour, and then it will just drop the message. Okay, if they're not responding, it doesn't make sense to keep on trying, no? And then that message will fail. So for us, the amount of failed messages had to be as low as possible. So anyway, just to give you an idea that there was this big indicator guiding a bit the quality of our service. We should be on 99.9. It was very difficult to be there. In the end, we were over 99.5 most of the time, but it was something that we had to keep on working on. Okay, this is another document that we are working with. It's the operating manual. At the beginning of my time, I didn't even know what had to go in an operating manual. I said, well, okay, the system is done, it's working. What else? We don't need anything else. But there are things about system maintenance, how to, if the internal queues get stuck, how to get them unstuck, how to monitor. If we're putting in place compression, what are the configuration for this compression, how to do troubleshooting, how to communicate with different people. We had a Slack channel with 180 people that were users of the system in many countries. No? So this system had to be installed not only in the Commission, but also in other member states, and people had to run this system. So we got them all together. We formed a community. They were helping each other with issues, with installations, new versions. So that was also part of how we run the system. No? This is the operating manual. Another element that has to do with architecture is the use of these libraries that we use it for latency tolerance. So this is when again we are sending towards a node, and the node is slow in reacting. It could be that if we have a lot of messages towards that node, the performance will go down because all the resources of our server are used in order to send, but they are waiting for the response. No, so a library that is useful in order to confront this situation is Hystrix, and with Hystrix we can implement a circuit breaker. A circuit breaker is something that you probably have seen already, or you will see in this subject. And if the system is not responding, we don't try anymore. We just we say, okay, it's broken. Let's wait for a bit, and we will retry later on. So it's protecting the application of the situation that I mentioned earlier on. Hystrix is a library that Netflix created. Now it's not. This is the one we are using. However, it's not updated anymore. Now there is a new version called Resilience4j that does several other things. Again, I would be interested to know if you have faced this circuit breaker, if you have seen something about it. Maybe you can tell me later. Something which is important for me is how to learn about the technology. You know? And at some moments, we had to create a front end, and we did not have experience in Angular. And I have a conflict with my boss. I was saying, I want my team to learn about this and to implement this. and they said, I don't want experiments. I want people that know about Angular. But the only way in which you can have people that know about what you need is to train them. It is your team that will be there for that, but you have to give them the opportunity and the time, which is what we did. In the end, I got away with this, and I managed to have a couple of people learning, implementing this, and now what I have 2 years later is IT engineers that are knowledgeable in this, right? So now I have the experts because I gave them the opportunity to learn, and this was a conflict I chose to have with my boss, right? So I'm saying this because in my life I have always been told that this quote from Einstein that you can see there. I've heard this for a very long time. I take this also to my professional life, but sometimes you are not going to find the same understanding, and you have to choose with which battles you want to wage, right? So this was one that I think it's important. Other conflicts that I had was also with business, and this was about planning. They were coming and telling me, we need to know when we are going to deliver this and this and this and this and this. And I wanted to have this Gantt chart with dates, and for the coming 2 years, we were going to deliver this module in June, this module in August, and then this other version, whatever. And at the beginning, I was doing that in good faith. I was saying, well, listen, if things go well, this is what I plan. But then things never go well. This happy path never, ever happens. There are going to be many things you don't know, many things that you are not aware that you don't know, new priorities, things, people that leave. Planning is something which is helpful, but I would not take it as like the holy grail or something which is written in stone. No, the way to do planning for me is much different. You plan what you know, like in the short term, in the next month, the next couple of months, and the rest is very loosely planned. And I had a conflict with the business in this case, and in the end, when they were asking me how long is it going to take, it will take as much as it's needed. What is important is that we know what are the priorities. If you tell me, okay, we have this top priority, I'm going to put all the resources to work on this priority. And then we will make it, we will do it. When? Whenever it's done. But give me the priorities and I will deliver things to you. But I'm not going to do planning. Here you are going to, this is not something that everyone will agree, okay? You will find different people with different approaches, and some people will be more happy to make the planning and follow the planning. That's not my case. I think I'm giving you a lot of content here that, it's just a summary of a lot of issues I found over the years. And today I can look at that and say, okay, I know what I want in each of them, but this hasn't been the case. I have been finding out what was my preference, what I could do over time. But I'm aware that this is quite dense in terms of content. What I want to mention now is what is the difference between contracting, between having internal staff doing the work or outsourcing, which is another big topic in which you might be involved in the future. The person here in the picture is James Cook, who is an English sailor from, I think it's the 1700s. And he did 3 big trips in the Pacific Ocean. And on the third trip, the preparation of the boats was not done by his team, because in England at the time, the people working in the docks, they decided that there was going to be another team preparing the boats for him. No, so it was outsourced. And if you read something about what he was thinking of the time, he said, well, okay, wait a second. If someone else and not my crew is going to prepare the boats, then I need to pay much more attention to the quality of the deliverables. What are they going to give me? Is this what I want? Is this boat prepared in the way I need it for a trip of 5 months in the Pacific Ocean? So instead of being the usual sailor that he was much more of a he was working on the contracts. No, I asked you for this, but you gave me this other thing. He was working on this quality control, and this happens all the time in IT. So when you have your own team, you can say, for instance, these 3 people, 5 people working for you, and you say, this is the planning for next month. Let's go to it. No, wait, there is a last minute change. You accommodate that. But if you are outsourcing, you need to put on paper what you want. You need to sign a contract with some other team. And then if there are changes, then you cannot do them. You have to wait until they deliver. And then you need to come with a new document, with a new contract for the changes. So you are less flexible with that. Again, here you will find in the industry different approaches. People will like more working on one side, working on the other side. I have a very clear a very clear favorite, which is I want to work with internal teams. I want to be able to work with the people, to develop the people, to give them the training, to be able to change priorities whenever we need that. I don't want to be dealing with contracts and being on the receiving side and getting angry with another team with which I have no influence about what they have delivered. So, but this is something that you might encounter in your professional life. Well, at some moment we had. I think this slide is a bit out of place because it would work better when we were talking about the latency and when we had a conflict with the architecture office, because this was why we managed to get to 60 messages per second, because there was a developer that took some time to rewrite a lot of the system from scratch. What I want to mention here is that these sort of changes, this very large refactoring of the systems, they are scary. And at the moment, at that moment when this happened, I had other responsibilities as well, and I was not paying a lot of attention about what was going on. And if I might have not approved this, I might have said, no, let's not rewrite it. When I look back, but then this change was the greatest change we did in the system, and it has managed to get the system future-proof for many years. And I still think about it. If I had the opportunity to stop it, maybe I would have stopped it. But in the end, it was a fantastic thing that we did. Well, one more thing that we have is about continuous integration. I here just want to mention the tools that we were using for this. We were using Jenkins first, and then we moved to Bamboo. Why? Well, because it was the corporate tool, not for any other reason. No? Jenkins, we were using that a bit because of our preference, but then we aligned with a tool that was used a bit more widely in the house. And here we still need to work on that. No, we should be able to automate the deployments to test. Continuous deployment is something that we don't have yet, but this is a bit of a journey. These are things that you have to find time during your week to think about how you want the thing to be in the future. So yeah, you need to find the space to keep on improving and not be trapped by the priorities of the day-to-day. And this needs to happen over time, otherwise you will never move forward. Okay, maybe some things about how the team is organized. We are running dailies every morning. And well, it depends. They can take from 15 to 45 minutes. This we did during we started to do it with the pandemic. Before they were everyone they were all of them in the same room, so this was not needed. And we don't do sprints, for instance. I mean, this is something that for us it never worked. It seems we don't need it. And then the idea is that once we have done the daily in the morning, people can work independently. So we have half an hour for alignment, and then you know what you have to do. Off you go. We will meet tomorrow. If you need to meet with someone else, then you will call them, and then this is a bit the daily work. I want to talk a bit about how to manage people. For me, in particular, I have been working remotely for already since before the pandemic. So for 6 years, I was only 1 week per month in Brussels. The rest of the time, I was here in Italy with my family. So, and with IT, I don't think this is an issue. If you ask me today about the new ways of working, for me, I'm a big proponent of the full remote. I don't like hybrid. I don't like going to the office. I think that working fully remote can be good, and this is a bit my experience. But I want to mention something about the one-on-ones. The one-on-ones are meetings I have as a manager with each of the members of the team every 2 weeks, and for half an hour we talk about how things are going. I don't want to know how the work is going. It's not a status report. I don't want to know about your tasks. I want to know how you are feeling. What are you training on? Do you have any feedback about the way we are working? Do you have any conflict with someone else? How can we improve things? This is the way in which I do this. In these one-on-ones, it's not a status report. We have other meetings in order to discuss that. This will come in the dailies when you have technical issues. This is more about the personal contribution of the people to the work. And there's one tool that I have found which is very useful, which is called the Nailed It. Nailed It is the name you have there at the end. And it brings 2 elements about teamwork, which I think are very important. And I wanted to mention them. Psychological safety. This is when you are able to tell that something is wrong and you're not afraid of doing that. Because sometimes you will be just afraid of telling your boss, listen, there is a problem here, and we are going to, and I found a library which is not working, and we have a big issue. Sometimes you will fear that someone is going to come after you. It will tell you it's your fault. These teams, they are not very productive. The productive team is the one where you can really say, stop everything, there's a problem. I messed up. I put in production a version which is not working fine, and you're not afraid of doing that, because this will allow everyone to fix it as soon as possible. It will work better in that way. And then the other element is motivation. Motivation is not something that happens just per se, that you will say, today I woke up very happy and I'm motivated. No, there is a science behind this, and there are 3 elements that are very important, which are autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Autonomy is how much you have freedom in order to do your work. Autonomy is not have someone telling you, you have to do this, and then you have to do that, and then change this code here. This sort of micromanagement runs contrary to autonomy, right? So you have to, you have studied, you have worked, you have your knowledge. We are hiring you because we trust your knowledge. So go and deliver what you know. So this is the autonomy. Mastery is that you are able to learn on the job. If at some moment you will say, okay, I'm not learning enough, then you're going to become demotivated, right? So we have to be engaging in new technologies and finding new things to do so that we can keep on learning. And this links back to what I mentioned before about learning on the job, because it is, again, it's part of it. And then purpose. Purpose is that we are doing something that has an impact beyond ourselves. In our case, it was relatively easy to find the purpose because we are working for fisheries. So in the end, we want to put more fish in the sea. Our IT systems, the end result is that there are going to be healthier oceans and more fish in the sea. Now, it's a bit wide to say this, but there are links here that we can find. But I always compare this with when I was working some years ago in the European Parliament, and I was working for the members of the European Parliament in the finance sector, and our work was to pay for the trips of the members of the European Parliament. Some people that were not willing to travel they wanted to travel in business, they wanted to travel in expensive flights. For me, this was not motivating at all. It was like, why am I doing this? For these people, just they don't have any respect to the taxpayers' money. But now I am on a very different side. Now I'm working for the environment, working for the oceans. So the purpose of what we do is much easier to see in this case, right? So maybe think about this also for your future. If you feel you are not motivated to what you do, try to think about these three elements, and this could help. Okay. Now, what happens once we have this system working is that it's not just working. You need to maintain it. You need to upgrade it. Because the system will get rusty. The system will eventually become legacy. There is no single point from when a system becomes legacy or not. No, it's like until the 1st of January, it was not legacy, and now it is. No, it's going to gradually become a legacy system if you don't pay attention to it. Now, these systems are typically using several dependencies, many libraries, and these libraries have new versions. If you don't take the time to go back and to upgrade the versions and to maybe do the changes that you need and to get this Angular 2 bumped to Angular 14 or whatever, the system will eventually become legacy and it will be in a bad situation. I'm saying this because maybe for IT people, this is more natural to think that, of course, we have to upgrade the system. The system is never done. But some managers will think, okay, we have invested 1 million euros in the system. The system is working. Let's forget about it for the next 10 years. This is the recipe for disaster. This is the recipe to find a legacy system afterwards, right? So there has to be continuous investment in maintaining a system. This is the idea a bit behind that. Okay, and maybe just one last idea. I'm currently on a sabbatical break. I worked on this for 7 years, and I needed more flexibility to balance with my family life, and they were not giving this to me. They already gave me a lot of flexibility, but I still needed more. So in the end, I had to take a break, which is where I am now. I have been now for 1 month playing the ukulele in the boat, as you can see there. But now some ideas about what happens when I leave is that I was a bit of the I have given you maybe half of my job with this project development, because another half was more about IT operations and managing a support team. So I haven't covered this, but in my job, I was having both the development and the operation side, and it's not something you cannot take for granted that people are going to understand what DevOps means. For some people, development is one thing, operations is different. In my particular case, I was getting those together. Now that I leave, I'm not so sure how they are going to do that. Part of what I contributed to was to solve conflicts. So in the end, as a manager, as I mentioned before, you listen to people, you try to understand what they are thinking and try to see if there's common ground. And I had a vision of where we wanted to go. I'm not so sure if this is going to be covered now that I have left. But in any case, my last words to my colleagues was that in the end, my feeling was that I was as good as they have made me. So you see, in this job, I place a lot of trust in the people that have been working for me. And in the end, I have been able today to boast about some things that they did. I didn't do them. I put in place the background, the environment so that they could do them. But it was them doing that. And this is a bit also how I feel about you professionally. That I think that you can follow also this road. That if you want to learn, if you want to confront these challenges in IT, I also think that you can have an interesting career. And maybe one more thing that I added this morning is about working for the European Union. So if you are interested in this, you have several options. I have been a trainee for the European Commission. Okay, so if you want to know how this works, this is a 5-month traineeship in Brussels. So this was the first, my first engagement with the Commission was as a trainee. Then I became a contract agent, and this has a 6 years contract. And then I became permanent staff. But this is after passing some competition. So I have put here the links. If you want to explore this for your professional future, please do that. It's a very interesting approach, and I'm not sure if if in your day-to-day you're going to hear about that. So keep this information if you want to explore this. And also, you might not be part of the staff of the European Commission, but you might be part of a company that will develop software for the European Commission. And you can do this as an external contractor. And there are options today to work either from the buildings of the Commission or remotely, but from Brussels, or remotely from Spain, or from anywhere in the European Union. So this is possible today. So you might find a job as an IT developer in the coming years to work for the European Commission through an intermediate company, and working from Asturias if you want, or from wherever you want. So this is something which is possible. It has to be done through a framework contract, and you have to find the companies that are doing this. I put here the name of the framework contract, the GTM2, and then, well, it's just about finding companies that are doing that. So that you can have a bit of information about that. Okay, so that's it. Thank you very much. You can find me at LinkedIn and at Mastodon. If you want to, keep on this conversation. And now I would like to maybe hear from you about some of the elements that I have mentioned before, and your questions.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much, Rafa, for the presentation. And now, as we said, we have time for questions. Let's see if you want to do any question. You should try to do one question. No one has any question? Okay. Yes.
This is only only related to this fishery project, or other projects involved in the presentation?
Sorry, I couldn't hear very well the question.
Try to speak, because the microphone is this here, so speak loudly.
Only regarding the fishery project, or are more projects involved in this presentation?
So the project that I have been talking about is just about the transport layer, right? So how to move data from one place to another. But then in the Director General of Fisheries, there are several other projects that are on top of this. No? So we have the data is moved, but then what to do with this data? And in fisheries, we have other systems on top. So some other that will come to my mind is like when you have your map of Europe and you can see where the vessels are. No? So you put a map and you plot the positions on the map, and you plot the trips of the vessel, and you right click on the vessel and you see the characteristics of the vessel, who is the owner, when it was built, what sort of gear it has, what licenses this vessel has to fish there, and what they have fished. So this is one example that is very close to where we are, that I have not been directly involved, but my colleagues have. So that's one example. But then in terms of what the European Union is doing, there is a wide variety of things. There are many things happening in many other aspects. So in the end, I just have, I'm giving you one glimpse of what is there. But there are many other things. So now, I was mentioning before that if we wanted to start from scratch today, we will not use the technologies that we have for this system. No? And there is a big project that we are starting today today, already for a year. I mean that in these days, which is called the Ocean Store, which has a data lake at the core, and then you basically dump all the data there, and you extract reports for several needs. No, so this is something new in the same field. And there are many other things that I'm not aware, but I can tell you that the variety is huge.
Thank you.
And I remember, Rafa, that when we were talking this summer, you were talking something about hackathons or something like that. Can you explain a little bit about those hackathons or how they work? Or
yes, so this system, the Flux Transport Layer, is a system which is prepared to be released open source. It hasn't been released yet, but we have been working on finding the right permissions from the Commission to do it, to find the right license, that is going to be the GPL version 3, and to remove the incompatible libraries from the system. So it still needs some work, but we are going into this direction. And at the European Commission, there is a small office that is promoting open source. They want that every system which is developed in the European Commission is released as open source, because they believe that whatever is paid with public money should also be public, which I think is a great idea. And this office has been promoting different ways of engaging with open source. One of them was the hackathon. So at some moment they suggested to us, okay, why don't you put your system, you make it open for people to, I think I'm missing here the thing. This was not the hackathon, this was the bug bounty. Sorry, I haven't been now here. There was the security bug bounty. So we put the system, but it was the same thing. The system was made available to some researchers, and they were going to find security bugs. And if they found, depending on the severity of the bug, they were going to receive some money. So if you find a small bug, 250, you find something which is critical, 3,000 euros. So this bug bounty was one example of an action that we did with this system. Now, but the hackathons, the same team promoting open source, they are running from time to time sessions in which they bring people together from different open source projects. They bring the team together to Brussels, and for a weekend, they basically cover their expenses to work on something. What was, I think they did it with some PHP library. Now I don't remember but they chose like 3 or 4 open source projects. They paid for the contributors to travel to Brussels for 1 weekend and to work on improvements for those systems. So this is an example of a contribution to open source that the Commission is doing, and they happen every several months. I think. I mean, at least maybe one per year. I'm pretty sure that they are doing that. So it's something that could be interesting if you are, I don't know, if you have some preference about if you're using some, if you like this sort of activity, like this hackathon, or if you know the system that they are going to be working with.
Okay. More questions? Yeah, there's one question over there.
About the teamwork in the charts of the information that you gathered. About the teamwork and the chart and the measurements that you took. Were there any other measurements about not measurements? Sorry, about any other? Yes. Were there any measurements to tackle the reason why the team mood was in a way, or some ways to prevent that from happening?
You're talking about measurements about how the team is performing. Is it about?
There was a slide in which there was a graph of the team mood about the psychological safety and motivation autonomy, and yeah, there were any measurement when the values, for example, were too low or not as expected. Were any measurements in order to prevent that from happening, or just for uplifting the motivation, for example?
Okay, so I will tell you a bit more how this system works, and maybe we can find the answer for your question here. This system, this Nailed It, is a tool, and you have to pay, I don't know, like €5 per person or something like this per month, and they will send a questionnaire every 10 days. And this questionnaire, there are like maybe 10 questions each time, but they have like a database of 100 questions. And each question is assessing one aspect of the work. No, like, are you happy with your colleagues? If you are feeling down, do you think they are going to ask you how you're doing? Do you share the vision of the organization? I don't know. There are many things, no? And based on that, they are going to plot the people here on the map. And these are the plots of my team. Some of them, they were indirect. So this is an indirect question. No? They were not asking, are you afraid of telling what's wrong? No, they were asking other questions, and indirectly they calculated that, okay, people have a high psychological safety, and they can talk when needed, or maybe not. Maybe they have issues. So when we have someone here out of the green bubble, then you can interact with this person, no? And then they will say, okay, now this is a small team. There were like 10 people, so it's not really anonymous. But if you have a larger team, the tool gives you the option to make it anonymous, and then you can see through time how this is evolving, no? In the last month. So this is there is this indicator here. Now, here at the bottom, you have this other indicator, which is the net promoting score, which is also part of the questionnaire. The net promoter score asks you, okay, if you have to, how likely it is that you would suggest, that you would invite other people to work where you are. No, are you happy enough to say, okay, my job is great, everyone should take it? Like, and you only, if you answer 9 or 10, you are a promoter. If you answer 7 or 8, it's neutral, and 6 and below, it's not a promoter, like a detractor. No, so it's the scoring is quite strict. So this is, another metric about engagement that you can use, which is quite standard. And here, what we have on the bottom, there are metrics for each of the questions. So now I'm talking about these two main things, but there are like, if I remember correctly, maybe 10 or 12 big blocks, and in each big block, 3 particular aspects. Right? So this tool is measuring like 60 different variables around that. I cannot tell you now which ones they are. I don't remember them. And now the tool, I already put it, stopped working with it since I'm on leave. No, but Nailed It. I mean, look at this is the Nailed It is the name. If you want to check, you can probably see more information from their website. Nailed It.
Thank you very much. More questions? So we can close it, the recording here.